Hello, everyone. Okay. How is my screen looking like?
Yeah, it's good.
It's good? Okay. So welcome, everyone. Welcome to the Open Internet Summer. This is the moment that we've been waiting for. So we start today. But before we start, I want to talk a little bit about this event and why it was really important to do it. I had a lot of conversation the past few days and the past few months, and there is something that comes up in every single conversation. It's the diversity of topics that we talk about when we are on ICP. I think there is a reason for that. Like, it's very broad because we are at the beginning of something that will be remembered for many, many times. The reason for that is I believe that canister and cells represent the same thing in different environments, in different universe. So if you think about it, we are here today because for some reason, according to the knowledge that we have today, 4 billion years ago, there was a cell that appeared from different reactions, different interactions. And different things happen, evolution, and it made this cell became more and more complex, multicellular environments, then some animals, and of course humans at some point. And this brings me to the canister, because the canister is the cell of the digital world. This is a unit that we can have. It represents how you interact with the world. It can store energy. It can interact with other cells, and it can also replicate thanks to the actor model that we have in Motoko and even in other languages. So if you think about it that way, it's really broad, the number of applications that we can have from that concept of canister. And sometimes I'm thinking about, what is the protocol that will be powering all of this? I believe it will be ICP, but an ICP that we still don't really know, because when we think about ICP today, it's just a prototype for what could be ICP in the future. But the canister is always going to be there. And the builders, you, me, all of the builders here, we have this unit of computation that is decentralized, and we can use it to build so many different things, which is what is amazing in this community. And all the discussions that I have, it's always something different, a different domain. And it was only 3 years ago that the first canister was deployed. If you look at the speed at which things are going, if you look at the speed at which things are going compared to the natural world, where it took 4 billion years, we are already so much far away from that in only 3 years. So I cannot imagine what this will be like in 10 years. And that's why we are here. And I believe that this is the beginning of something that is beyond, I don't understand everything, but I think it's beyond what we already had seen in technology. So when there is a change like this one, we need to think about new rules. And we are here to discover those rules. That's what is Open Internet Summer. We are about to change the way we interact, the way we do businesses, the way we make contracts with other people and even other entities. And we are here to discover those rules because there is still going to be rules that we have to implement. But we have a chance to make things much more interesting, much more fair, much more equitable, and much better for the state of the entire network. So new civilization, new rules, but also new civilization, new language. And there is a language for the builders. So the language for the builders is this Motoko language that we are all here to learn. Some of us have already made great progress on that, but it doesn't matter where you are, there will be resources here to help you learn Motoko and to progress in your Motoko journey. And new civilization also means new economy. So there are new businesses models that we have discuss in the ICP ecosystem, and so many interesting conversations, some of them with the open source ethos and the cycle value sharing, and the community aspect, where you have economical system that redistributes the value inside the network. There are a lot of experimentation. I believe this current economy that we have is starting to show some signs that it's not really adapted to the reality of our life anymore. That manifests in a lot of problems. We can see that in different ways in our life. And so this new economy that we can build, we can orient it, and we actually have I would say, responsibility to orient it towards the thing that we want to see. So if we think about what the market is an algorithm that makes trade between different individuals, but the market also can be influenced by our by our intentions. So I'm not calling for communism. We have already tried that. I'm not calling for capitalism. We have already tried that as well. But there is a balance that I think we can strive for, where we can have an economy of purpose, but we can still have advantages of both systems. And this is possible to implement thanks to blockchain technology. So this is one of the big topics of the Open Internet Summer. It's how to make this economy emerge and what are the answers that we have to find. So there is a rule, which is the rule number 7. No, it's the rule number 2. It's the rule number 2. And the rule number 2 says that whoever shows up are the right people. Whatever happens is fine. This event is something that has never been done. And I believe that all of you that joins, you are here for a reason. Some of you for a specific reason. Some other of you, probably you're still wondering exactly what is this event, what is ICP, because you are discovering it at the moment. But all of you are here for a reason, and we are here to help you discover why. So this is one of my main goals, is for all of you to have a reason to contribute to the Open Internet Summer and to find out what this reason is, because I believe there is a reason. So how are we going to do that? We are proposing unconference format. So here, there is no teacher, there is no student. We are all both of them. I know some things, you know some things, but I don't know everything, and no one knows everything. So the environment that we cultivate here is an environment where you can see yourself as a student, but also as a teacher. The ideal rate of student and teacher, according to recent studies, is 1-to-1. So right now we are far from that. We have a few people that are selected as teacher, and we don't have enough teacher. We can all be students, we can all be teacher, and that's the spirit of the Open Internet Summer, is to all contribute to helping other people around us. And we do that with this unconference format. So this means a mindset change, which means that whatever you want to talk about, even if you think this is a stupid idea or you feel like a little bit ashamed, you should propose it. If you want to talk about something, you should propose it. And there is no stupid idea. As I said, ICP and blockchain and what's happening here is really broad. And so we can have all sorts of crazy ideas. For me, there is no idea that is crazy enough, because we are really talking about building everything from scratch. And so that's why we need space to talk. We need space to be safe and share ideas like the idea that I'm sharing right now, which are, crazy. If people hear that, they could say, oh, this guy is crazy. But we are not crazy. There is a technology and we are not crazy. So there is no student, there is no teacher. And feel free to add any session that you want to see during this month. So why are we doing this during the summer? Summer is the longest day of the year. Actually, it was yesterday, the 21st of July, that we had the longest day of the year, at least in the northern hemisphere. And summer is a time where, in many cultures, in many civilizations, it's a time for festivities and it's a time for community. It's a time where we can talk, and we can talk for long around fire camp. That's the picture that you can see here. And I believe that's what we need right now, is really to come together and to talk about that, because there are many topics that we need to discuss, and we need to come together and to talk about that. So there is a reason that this event is happening in the summer. There is a reason that we are doing it in that format. And I just want to say this is a time to open discussions about topics that you think would be relevant in any case. So there is a reason for the Open Internet Summer to be in the summer. So I want to talk about what will be the collective experiment for the month. I need you to open your minds and understand the game we are playing. You are all a canister. So starting from today, when you go about your daily life, think about, what if I was a canister? What if I was something that could receive cycles? What if I could interface with different functions, with other canisters? What would it mean in my daily life? You are all canister, we are a network. So we are a network of canisters, and we monitor 3 important parameters in our network. We monitor the number of humans, so that's the number of people in the network, not the number of canisters, the number of people, humans. We monitor the energy. So if you want to go into the details, it's essentially monitoring the cycles, which could represent the energy. And we monitor the feeling of the network. So every one of us, every day we have different feeling. We feel a certain way. And we will also monitor that at the network level. So those are our 3 parameters for the month. And the goal of this event is to expand this network by adding new rules and elements in our network. This is the first version of the game. In the first version of the game, these additions are decided by you, by among 3 options that we publish day by day. We will publish that in our Discord, and you will choose 3 options in a pool. All of it can be changed daily because we will, of course, introduce choices, so you will have option to choose. And even this rule that as a team that are behind the Open Internet Summer, we introduce 3 choices can also change. Everything can change depending on the choices that we will take every day. And that's it. We need to figure out many things. We need to figure out how we can track the number of humans in the network, how we can track the energy. Should we track the energy of everyone? Should we track the energy at the average? Should we track the lowest energy point? And we need to figure out how we track the feelings of every individual in the network. And that's why we are asking you to help us on that mission. We will open 3 rooms, 1 room for tracking the number of humans in the network, 1 room for tracking the energy, and 1 room for tracking the feelings of the elements of the humans in the network. Feel free to choose the room that corresponds to whatever you're more interested by tracking, and we will talk about how we can implement that in the code. I'm sure you have many questions. So, Ricardo, can you open up the rooms? Okay. Yeah, I can do it. So there will be each of us, so Ellie, Ricardo, and me, we will each go into a room. So the first room is how can we track the number of humans? Well, actually tracking humans.
I just shared the mirror that we are going to use when we are in this room, so you don't have to go now, but just that you get the link before we go to the rooms.
We have the 3 rooms open now. There is the room for tracking feeling. There
Hello guys.
Hello.
Hey guys, hope everyone's good. So this tracking humans, how are we tracking humans? Hmm.
Yes, Ricardo, I do have something. I was thinking, but in a general depth thing and overall talking about identity, that a trustless know your customer protocol should be implemented. If we are like trying to, I don't know, sell our interactions in a way, or share our interactions with different apps, a way in order to say, okay, I'm a canister, I'm a human being, and if I want to, I can share my name, I can share my age, like kind of a trustless protocol, know your customer protocol. So sorry. No, I was like thinking on the road. It should be like some kind of layers of contribution, because I understand the one that is actively contributing. I mean, creating videos, creating content, creating code, sharing experiences, and I also can understand the one that is just participating to learn, to hear like-minded people, to get involved a bit in the ecosystem. So there should be like a way in order to track both of those contributions, not only the one that, because although I think it's different, it's not the same contribution. Someone who's just like hearing and maybe has some friends, and if he can um, understand what we are doing here and talk to others outside of this room, um, like that.
I have a question because I come to this chat too late. But how how do we identify people like what what is the domain here? Like what is the people? Like the user or people?
Right, so we see that we've got someone put down tracking. Let me see what it says here. Categorize people into 2-3 groups based on their goals. Um, what does that look like? Just so I understand. categorize people into 2 to 3 groups based on their goals. I'm not sure who added that one in, but can you just give us a bit more on what that is so we might be able to elaborate on that?
Yeah, I wrote that. Before I answer, maybe Ricardo, can you? One thing I'm lost with this exercise is, are we brainstorming how to design a canister, or are we trying to grow the Open Internet Summer group? What is the what is it that you were trying to? Oh, gotcha. Okay, yeah, yeah. So right. So circling back to the question, I guess like the what I wrote there is there's probably engineers who are very versed in Motoko. There's first-time engineers who just found out about ICP and they're trying to learn a little bit about it. There's people like me who are not engineers who have an interest in the topics. Who are kind of technical, but not like engineers. And then, I don't know, there might be other types of people. So I think it's important for us to first recognize what kind of people are in this group. And for each, we might want to have like, 1 or 2 activities, because I think like each of them will behave differently within the group, right? I'm not an engineer, so I'm not gonna, do like code commits and things like this. But I can do research and do things like this. So I think for each of those groups, it might make sense to have a criteria about what defines active.
Okay, so I was on the interesting spaces yesterday, and someone was talking. I'm just gonna like speak it because I'm not quite sure how to make it into a visual thing. But one of the things that someone said, and a lot of people felt the same way about, was the level of support for both non-technical and technical people in the IC, and they felt like they're, even though, in fact, what the actual and the outcome was that IC is more like Linux and it's for serious devs, where it needs something that's it needs something in between for the less serious devs and for just the regular people to be able to understand it, because people want to get in, but it seems a bit hardcore. So I don't know how to put that in this visual thing here, but I thought I'd share it because a lot of mine's on the call, and so I might be able to, I don't know if that fits into what we're doing here or not. Yeah, yes, yeah, yeah. And I think definitely, because I think it's very ICP is very technical. Um, so people need to be able to understand it from a non-technical basis. The benefits of it, not the features. We speak a lot about features, but not benefits. So I don't know if that fits into the educate first, but yeah, that would go good. Yeah.
It really depends on what people are get out of the network, right? Like whether they join the network or not really depends on what the network can also do for them. And I think maybe that's a starting point. I mean, education is one thing, but I think there needs to be something further that people take away from this, right? So that could be another thing we can brainstorm. I mean, for engineers, it's a little bit more straightforward, but I think for the non-engineers, it's a little bit less straightforward, right? Because for engineers, they have like very hard skills that they can take away from this. For non-engineers, it's a little bit different.
Yeah, we get that, but wouldn't that be then? How do you? Wouldn't that come under the categories then of the groups of people? Yeah, yeah. Okay. Yes. So then they'll complete some sort of onboarding form for us to know which one they are. We can see all the screen. We can see all the stickers. I can see all the stickers. And I can still see people that add in.
What about if we can kind of create a registry canister where we can um because I am thinking about like merging different types of group of people should be like um, careless about what they do. I mean, if you are a developer or you're a lawyer, it should be the same in order to track their activity. And in that like seamless integration, I'm thinking that the internet identity is so easy, so simple that maybe if we can like create a registry where the the fixed spots are the places as for example this room we are like right now in the tracking humans room. So I Francisco, which I would have a principal ID associated with this canister, I am right now participating in this group. So a way to track the human activity, leveraging some seamless and useful feature as the internet identity should be like, okay, I am registering my principal identity towards this group, and later on, I move on to another room and register some activity in that room, but always under the hood of a registry canister which holds um, just user activity. No, no, no. Of, of course. Okay, great. So that's a good question because I really feel the sense of the user owned canister. But this user owned canister has to interact with another canisters. So the way I'm looking at it is either you are a user owned canister or a user who manages its own internet identity. Both of them have a principal ID. So I in this registry idea, I don't care if that principal is a user canister or a user principal, as long as it registers in this activity log. I am not able to write in this mirror, Ricardo, because yes, I am in the cell phone. Um, sorry for that, but I tried.
Yeah. Okay, I suppose it's not projects, it's people. I think it's. I mean, maybe I'm jumping the gun a bit. Then it's more like I was just thinking about when people come, people have a reason to be there. So, the more, how many people are here just to share ideas? How many people have ideas? And I'm thinking maybe I'm still on the conversation I was having yesterday on Spaces, where there are a lot of people who are not developers, they're not technical, but they have ideas, and they're coming to, this. And how many people are here with ideas? So that's what I was thinking. I don't know if this is the space for it, but I'm just throwing the stuff out to understand and I get a feel of what we're trying to do. Yeah, once again, that was me again. And what's in it for me? I'm just trying to understand. I think if we're talking about how to get people involved, then the question they ask, the question we need to answer, or they need to have an answer to first, is what's in it for me. So why should I join? Me, I joined. I'm building an IC already. I've got a project that I'm already building. And I like the idea of the whole open build. And I felt that some of what I'm building would be best built with more minds than just mine.
It's kind of straightforward having a project to work on, but when it comes to onboarding people that doesn't like directly have a project or whatever, we should like create a framework or a schema in order to onboard easily and redirect their intentions um, towards their goals.
And that's probably why I said what like if we can answer the question what's in it for me, then that allows them to say, okay, right, bang, you know what, this is it. And it could be, and I just think that we don't want to miss that part because if we're dealing with non-technical people, the question really is what's in it for me. This is a Motoko bootcamp, which sounds very technical.
it is not my proposal, but like you guys say about the thing just to attract people to to open internet summer or something in ICP ecosystem. So I think there's some way we can achieve like the bounty for dev or even some people from like writer or marketing people and maybe artists for making the banner of some project in ICP. So from like we have a platform just like hire freelancer job and maybe some people will interest about a little money, but they will do and that's the way I think we can attract more people to ICP ecosystem. Then other thing uh like Motoko bootcamp for only for dev or something like that. Yeah, that's all.
No, that was me, but this was before we well, it seems like we're trying to grow the group before we use the word track. That's why I was just writing it.
Yeah,
So at the bottom right, I created, yeah.
Hey Ricardo, how was everything from your room?
Yeah, share your screen.
Yeah, we discussed about energy. We had some interesting ideas. I can share my screen. Actually, so yes, it was an interesting experiment because it's very abstract. But I think by repeating the rules, repeating the fact that we are building the rules inside the game as well, we can make it as clear as possible. So right now we are really just trying to get those metrics as close as possible to the reality of the actual people and actual energy in the network. So the idea is to get those metrics as close as possible from the reality, and we have to start simple. So one idea that I really liked was the idea of Ted, that for the energy we can start very simple with a proof of life every day. So essentially, every day there is in my canister a variable that says alive or dead, and every day I have to change it to alive. If I don't change it, it automatically goes to dead. So that was the first element that we wanted to add, and then we discuss adding more things on top of that. If we have that, we can actually also have maybe a cycle distribution every day for everyone that is alive. We can say we can distribute cycles to everyone that is alive by checking all of them through some type of methods. But if we already have the proof of life, I think the proof of life is a great concept that we can integrate, and that gives us like at least some level of indication on the energy of the network. If we have 50 people with a proof of life, we know that the energy is less than if we have 100 people with a proof of life. I mean, we can assume that. We have to, that's always hard, but we have to assume things like this. So yeah, that's what we did in the energy room, and that was really interesting.
Yeah, I was struggling to also like I think it was not clear at the beginning exactly what it means that we are going to be canisters, and that so I explained a little bit more, and then also it was difficult to come up with something. But what was the final decision, or what we think is useful? I had problem with the mirror, so I can explain, because I don't know if this will represent. So because we need to implement very simple features, we came up with the idea to have three kind of emotion. So like happy, neutral, and negative, so that every day we can like say what is our state, and then make an average somewhere of the network state for the day. and then but it's not that useful, but that's the minimal thing we can measure, and that's the simplest thing. And then we can at some point also, if people are feeling negative, what would be interesting is knowing why are these people negative, and then it can be useful information to improve the state of the network. So that would be the second step. There was also this idea about having like happy emojis, okay, but it does not represent the intensity of the emotion. So we could have on top of the emojis to have a scale on 1 to 10. And the last thing was that maybe we can connect the canisters to Glue or to OpenChat, and to see if we can, for instance, when we do our daily update and we say how we feel, can it be represented automatically in the canister, in our canister? So that's what we came up with. But that was also very abstract, and I felt it was difficult even for me.
Okay, that's super interesting ideas that we have here. We will, so thank you everyone for participating in this experience. We will read and come back with, a summary of everything that was discussed here. And we will make a proposal to move forward, 3 choices to move forward with this experience. You will all have to vote. We need some time to, discuss and see what are the 3 options that we can choose. And we will update you on that soon. Thanks everyone for participating in this experience. I know it's abstract, I know it's complex, but I think it's really important. So yeah, thanks again. Yes, that's a really good point. Thanks, Ricardo. Actually, so in this format of unconference, it's totally fine it's actually almost mandatory to drop from the room if you feel that you are not in the room, it's not contributing anything to you, or you're not contributing to it. You can drop room and you can go to another one. So, no problem about that.
Yeah.
Okay, do we have another link for that, or it's in the same room?
But maybe it's just better that we stay all here. We will lose some people if we just change. Is there a sense to go to the other? No. But that's true. But if people didn't want to join the kickoff and they want to join the other room, the new meeting, maybe it's. I don't see people. I don't see people joining the room. See that on. Rijat say I'm unable to join.
People are unable to join apparently.
No.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
So when we're talking about DAOs, are we talking about DAOs in the sense of an SNS from an IC perspective, or are we saying DAOs exist outside of SNSs? Yeah, I think the thing is, I feel like within IC, the whole DAO structure is built around the SNS, um, and that's if we look at generally how people see it, it doesn't have to be, but it's just like you need to SNS and then it hands over to the community and then you become a DAO, right? So that I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. Everybody else is here listening as well. We're in IC, but from what I see, and as someone who's building one, it seems like you need to, in order to be a DAO, you need to do the SNS. Hmm. I, I agree because I feel like I think, and I put in journey to DAO because I think depending on the use case in itself, the use case determines when you need to adopt a full DAO structure versus getting there. I don't think every use case is the same. Some use cases you can just open build, as some is like we kind of need to get to a point, and then or maybe not. But I'm interested to hear what people think about that.
There are some examples of, well, arguably successful DAOs on the Internet Computer, like Tagger, which isn't on the SNS. Although I would say majority are.
Okay, that's good to know because I feel like especially the thing is, especially for new people coming into the eco, they wouldn't know this. For those who have been there for a while, they would know this. And so everyone's moving towards I have to go this way versus here are the DAO options. Here are the different ways you can establish a DAO. Because the truth of the matter is there are DAOs outside of the IC, but it's like within IC, I feel like the DAOs and SNSs are synonymous. That's like they go like that. And for new people coming in, that's the message that's being put out. Yeah, I like that. I definitely like that. I really would like not to see the IC become so standardized where there's here are the steps you must take as a project. It needs to like the whole idea is the thing is open. Wherever you want to do, however you want to do it, you should be able to do it. Pick and choose. It's like Lego pieces. We put your building blocks together and say this is it. But I feel like what I can see at the moment, it just seems like, well, these are the steps you must take in order to be this thing here. And I think like if we don't, I suppose, give a different narrative, that becomes the norm.
On my project that I'm thinking of launching, I'm trying to experiment where essentially it's a house NFT, so it's tokenizing real estate by their properties. And so you've got a large, I've written DAOs within a DAO, and the idea here is that you've got a larger framework which decides when and if a property is bought. Then each property becomes a DAO controlled by the holders of that with the NFTs. And so that each property DAO would have, say over invoices and maintenance decisions and tenants and that sort of thing. And so trying to experiment with a DAO within a DAO or DAOs within a DAO structure.
Yeah, no, I totally dig that, and I get you. I've got something similar. I'm doing agriculture, and we're using a concept called stockfells, which are a form of rotating savings and credit association. They've existed for years. Like they're big in South Africa. They've got different names around the world, but they're essentially community savings and community groups. Where communities come together, they save together, and they essentially manage it offline in books. But we're taking parts of that concept and bringing it into our project, whereby we have a different stockfell managing a different part of the value chain. So when you join the stockfell, like for instance, we've got a farming one. So that one is for inputs, fertilizers, machineries, and stuff like that. So anyone who's part of that, they're able to, they contribute to the funds there, and those funds go to projects within that space. And one of the things that I feel DAOs could also do is they can bring capitalism back in the sense that people are voting based on the tokens they hold. So in our stockfells, it's 1 vote per person, not based on the amount you put in, because then that means that the people who don't have that much, their voice doesn't matter in the same way. So that's one of the things that I've looked to do, because especially, and like I've raised this concern quite a few times, that when we build these DAOs, if we're building DAOs that service, let's say, a marginalized group of people who are not on Web3 yet, by the way, how do we make sure that we protect their interests in the future? Because the early adopters are going to hold the biggest bags. And they now get to determine the futures and the things that happen for people who are going to come later on, who are essentially maybe the primary beneficiaries. So how do we get that balance right?
Very cool. I've been thinking similarly about each. It doesn't matter how many NFTs someone sold, they have 1 vote rather than several.
Yeah, I mean, the other side is, I mean, someone said, well, I mean, I thought about it, someone can easily just split their bag up, and that gives them lots of votes. And it's true, there's always going to be actors who try to gain whatever the system is. Maybe the new ID standard, I can't remember what it's called now, proof of human being, that could play a part in it, to say, well, you have to actually be a human, and as a human, now it's easier to at least determine that you can have 58 PIDs, but you can only be 1 human. You're gonna have to onboard 50 other people, which essentially is still onboarding 50 people, because you can always still talk to people and convince them to vote in your direction, that's human nature. That's what happens. But it's better than one person saying, well, I've got 1 million of this, I own 10% of this of the treasury or of the tokens, so I'm going to push things through and force it through. At least make it a bit more difficult for that to happen, if it is going. Oh, yeah, I'm busy talking. didn't check. Didn't open. Oh, user owned. Because I'm. Correct me if I'm wrong. The architectural open chat. Didn't they do like canister per user? Okay. Hmm. Okay. So what do you? How do you guys? Do you guys see? So let's last quick question because we're talking about this personal DAO. How does personal DAO fit into the idea of what you're saying? Yeah, the project personal DAO, because I think it's something like that.
Yes, actually, I am in touch with the developer, and I want to. So Jesse, I want him to join, and actually, I haven't we haven't settled on a specific day, but there will be a space for him to present personal DAO. I think personal DAO has a lot of the foundations, like the treasury aspect, from what I understand. But I'm not sure about the entire architecture and all the functionalities and everything. So yeah, I think it's something we need Jesse here, essentially.
No, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I joined because I wanted to participate in this session, actually. DAOs within a DAO. What exactly is it? Is it like how can a DAO create how can a DAO create sub DAOs? Yes, I would like to have a session like, are there alternative to token-based voting?
When you say alternatives to token-based voting, do you want to elaborate a bit? I think we might have covered that a second ago.
You already had a...
No, we haven't written it, but I'm just saying, like, what do you mean by alternative? What example, please, is essentially what I'm asking.
Like, if we all agree, like here, and we have consensus, we can take a decision and implement something in our network. And we don't necessarily vote based on token, but we could say that every day someone decides, and that's it. Like, we choose randomly someone, and we see if that's like interesting. And then, yeah.
So what happens if someone, made a suggestion that would break everything? But we say that would there be some sort of fail-safe in there to say, actually, as long as we agree that it's going to work for us, versus someone having the ability to, it's like a president coming in and saying, I'm going to cut budgets, and the next president comes in and creates the budget again.
Yeah. So I guess it depends on what we are doing with the DAO, like what is the purpose of the DAO. So if it's a simple DAO that is just responsible for simple things and taking only one decision a day, we could use this system. If there are more people, that would start to become complex pretty quickly. But maybe the person that is in charge is not necessarily able to take every decision. It's just the person that is responsible for reaching a final consensus. Or we could also explore a model where there is a few people that are responsible for making proposals, but they still have to be approved by everyone, every member, or at least 90% of the members of the DAO.
Because I think, so I think the other side is that, generally speaking, most people don't vote on anything that happens. There's some people who are there for vibes. Some people are there for like, I'm here because I love this thing. I don't have the time to, which is why people have the follow votes and stuff like that. So how do we, how do we design something that takes that into consideration, but then also, I think I've heard a few times with people, I'm not sure if IC is actually doing it as well, but, essentially after some time, the votes, the follows get reset so that you're not just following blindly or indefinitely. Because I think there's a lot of people who don't want to vote.
That is true. That is true. That is something that we have to keep in mind for any type of system, is that the votes are consuming energy. So the votes should only be used for making sure that we reach consensus, but you should have your space for decision that is impacting you, I would say, economically, and if it's impacting you, you will make the best decisions for you and your surroundings. That should be designed like this. Yeah.
Because I think that also as well, then, like with we're speaking DAOs in general, but if we look at the one that everyone's familiar with here, it would be the SNS type DAO structure. And I was on a Spaces, really interesting conversation. And I'm not even a technical person, so a lot of the stuff that goes on there, I'm like, I'm just going to just vote yes, or I very rarely vote no unless I can understand what's happening. And I generally, and also the votes should be like hidden until the end. So you're not voting with the crowd, you're voting on your own merit. Because I think that people are also influenced by, is it a yes or a no? I'm just going to vote with everybody else versus I'm going to take it upon myself to understand what this thing is and then vote. Versus, okay, well, everyone's saying yes, so I'm going to go with yes. But really, if you know what it's about, you probably say no. So I think that the votes should be revealed at the end and not during the process, maybe. So you know that it's actually fair and it's not influenced by everybody else.
Yeah, I think the problem is also, I would say this is kind of inefficient because like the goal of these votes is to approve code changes. But let's say you decide during this session that I am responsible for creating the platform for the next Open Internet Summer. I have to create a DApp. I don't necessarily want the opinion of everyone on that. Like, I want to be measured on my results, and if it's not good, then there should be some type of feedback loop. But doesn't make sense for me to have everyone voting on what is the next feature that I will implement if it's my project and I can take full ownership of it.
I agree with you.
And on the other way, there should be some type of votes that we should have in specific situation. Like, for example, if we can really track the feeling of the network, and we can track the feelings of individuals within the DAO, there should be maybe we could open up some type of emergency council or emergency vote or something if something is wrong, like if there is really a problem that we need to fix. But that should be the other way around. Like, we should vote when
there's
there's a tough decision to make. I mean, that's just me like rambling right now, so feel free to contradict me there. But I feel we should vote only if there is something really that we need to, like, we need to clarify and we need to reach consensus again. And it's like a tough call to make. But other than that, we should be able to just do our daily life and not having to vote on every DAO that we are part of. We should just be naturally
I think a step before that could be that I like that idea, but your AI canister essentially it explains what that proposal means and what it means for you. That would allow you to actually make an informed decision. You know, the AI is able to translate the proposal into something meaningful. Like, what does it mean for you? The AI says, well, this proposal, here's how it will affect you. Here's, you know, and then someone can actually make a decision, because some things are so abstract that people, I don't even know what that means. But if people are able to, like, the AI is able to like translate it, because now the AI is tuned to the individual, and how the individual thinks, and you know, the type of language individual uses, is able to now give the individual, like, okay, look, this is what this proposal means for the ecosystem, what it means for you. Now you can actually say yes or no, because it's explained it to you like a 5-year-old. No, you also, yeah, no, of course, I don't think you should spend all the day voting, but I still feel like, I definitely won't do that. So I think most people won't do it anyway, but it should be an option for people to just at least understand, what does this mean. You know, there should be an AI that can explain the DAO when someone just, you're not going to go in. Someone may never ever go in there, but the first time they go in there, at least there's an assistant that says this is what this one means. So you don't have. Yeah, I think that would be useful right now. That would be probably one of the most useful things that we can do. Because, like I said, I've sat on spaces where people, like, especially if we looked at the task we did just before this, we've got the devs, and we've got the non-devs. Even the devs are like, I don't even understand what this shit means, right? Because everything's so new. So I think like having something that can just break it down to everybody, and someone can think we might get true votes. So yeah, I think we should run. I vote for this one.
Yes. Yeah, we should pack up, and tonight we can review everything and make a proposal, because it's a lot of good ideas. So yeah. Mhm. Regarding the voting, don't you think that maybe we shouldn't strive for the more voting? We should strive for the less voting, because when things flow naturally, you don't need to vote most of the time. Like, I think it would be interesting to try like a framework where the vote is an emergency measure more than a feature. Because if you think about how you interact with your friends, like how many times do we vote on things? Like we never vote, except if like Ellie really doesn't want to do something, and like we are okay, which restaurant do we go, and we have to vote. But it's really rare. Like if things flow naturally, the voting is.
Our leadership. Yeah. I, I I agree with that. I mean, within my project, the internal DAOs, their goal is to manage the treasuries and the projects that get funded within within the ecosystem. You know, I think that is probably and like I agree with what Seb's saying, the emergency vote, and definitely about DAOs. The treasury is a really important part for the DAO to be in control of. You know, and I suppose proposals are made towards can we get this money for this thing, and then the accountability needs to be in there, and the DAO measures how efficient it was, and stuff like that. But yeah, I don't think that everyone should vote on every single thing, especially at the beginning. That's really hard. We're not going to move.
Yeah. Yeah, for example, I'm not hyper familiar with the context, but you said you have sub DAOs, or how does it work? I guess there is a main DAO that allocates some treasury, but then once you allocate the treasury, you don't necessarily vote on, like, you kind of give the right to the sub DAO to use the money, and you don't have to.
There's different ways you can do it, because I mean, if you look at organizations, like I was part of the British Computer Society, and that's the main organization, and within there they've got chapters, and each chapter gets a budget every year, and then they use their budget, and then they can also apply for special budgets as well, and they run autonomously, right? As long as it's in the spirit of the overall organization. Now, within my project, people actually pick and choose which one of these internal DAOs that they want to join, and they join with their tokens, and then those tokens now go towards projects. So it's absolutely disconnected from the overall DAO, which is focused on ensuring that the ecosystem is working a certain way, whereas the DAOs focused on particular elements of the value chain are only focused on their element of the value chain, and their goal is to focus on financing projects and receiving royalties, and voting on how, for instance, we vote on how much of the royalty should be distributed and how much should be reinvested. That's a vote that everybody has a single vote on. We vote on which projects should be funded first. That's a community type of thing. Outside of that, the overall DAO focuses on the management of the ecosystem. So I suppose there's different models that we can apply, and I think like it's always good for us to explore like models. We should even have a DAO framework, like models where we create certain models that people can pick and choose from, and they can mix and match, because I don't think everyone knows enough about it, and we just end up following what we think is the way because it's the way we've seen versus it. No, actually, we can do anyway. But I don't think a lot of people are aware of that we can do it any way we want.
Yeah, I definitely agree, and that's not only it's a waste of the problem for me is not even the waste of the efficiency, it's even the waste of the creativity, because there might be systems that work very well in certain situations, but there is no one exploring them, and that's yeah, that's sad. I think this is really sad, and it wouldn't be even too expensive to have experimentation. If we have a kind of a modular system for DAOs, you can have people going into all sorts of direction, and you have a feedback loop, so you can actually see what works, what doesn't work within the community, and just constant feedback and more experimentation. That's what I want to see, because I don't think one model will work for every community and every project.
Yeah, I agree. I think you missed the beginning of you weren't here at the beginning of when this group opened.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think the point that we kind of highlighted is that, especially new people coming into the eco, the poster child is SNS.
Yeah.
DAO equals SNS in ICP, and I think like that's the problem, because what that does is it means that everybody is just like, if I want to be a DAO, I need to do an SNS, and they need to know that actually here are your DAOs, here are your DAO options. SNS is one. Bang, 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 bang. And then people are like, okay, cool, I can find the thing that works for me. And you can actually say, you could start here and end up over there. Your structure doesn't have to be final, because the community votes and says, now we want to move our structure to this. And that should also be able to happen seamlessly.
Yes. And also one more thing I believe about SNS is the energy relation. Like, again, I'm talking about energy. I think it's important because if a DAO is a network, when you initialize the network and you raise money, it's essentially an amount of energy that you put in. And this can be a problem, I believe. If you have too much energy when a network is not ready to absorb it, in a sense, it can be a problem which can reflect in the DAO itself. Whereas when you can also have the other problem, like which is not having enough energy. But I believe there is probably a balance to find here, and that's not necessarily easy to do with SNS.
I don't think that's why I put in that thing journey to DAO. It's like, okay, you want to get to that point. What are the steps to get there? If we're talking about energy and money, it's like we don't need the full amount. Let's say the full amount was 1 million ICP. Okay, what do we need to start? Okay, we need 100,000 to get started. Okay, we get to the next milestone. We need 250,000. Then we now go to, at that point, we've managed to get there, manage the expectations, and we've also, people have joined the journey at the point that they're comfortable with.
Yes. Yeah. And there is and there is not like money sitting around that is not used or not like as efficiently as it could, and that also can limit the number of problems, I think, because money is double-edged sword, I would say. So yeah.
The board is looking really good though. This mind map here, it's busy. There's a lot of activity. Yeah. And I think, you see, the thing is as well, I feel like just the conversation that we're having is sparking other things that people are like, yeah, bang, bang, bang. I think it's a good blend. I think this is this was flowing nicely here.
Cool. I'm back.
I'd add in from my view would be to I really would along the lines of what Tori was saying would be, what's the journey and really what are best practices, right? What are some great examples of some really well run DAOs and what does their structure look like? I'd love to know kind of how that all gets put together. And from an organizational standpoint, what I would really like to know is like, how does a big DAO operate? I mean, how does a big DAO operate? I'm kind of, I've really not studied this at all, but you really need on one hand, Seb saying like, you shouldn't have to vote, and I'm with you on that. But on the other hand, a good organization is flexible and always has to move around, just be dynamic. It's always changing, there's changing market dynamics, there's changing needs, there's changing, the organization needs to flow. I wonder how that works if everyone has to vote on everything all the time. That kind of would lead to a stale organization. So anyway, those are the kind of things that I'm kind of more curious about, and I threw a bunch of post-it notes about that.
Do you know what? As you were saying that, what came to mind is DAOs actually being organized in a way where there's actually being broken down: marketing, development, finance, or should I say treasury, like different parts. And in that, the votes are based on you go into a different thing and you see what's happening. So literally categorize the departments of a DAO. And that could help with best practice rather than it all being bundled into one. It's like, well, for instance, if you look at IC, everyone's complaining about marketing, but we don't have anywhere where we see anything that's focused on marketing. If there's a marketing thing, then now we've got marketing proposals coming in that are being voted in or out, stuff like that. So I think like just giving it categories and structure like that.
Yeah, there is Okay. Okay, I will be very quick. So there is a concept, I don't remember the book, but it's like some best practices for designing a system, and it talks a lot about DAOs. Or I don't think it's really DAO because it was written before, but anyway. And it says like it's important to have the whole included in the subparts. So essentially, if you have a DAO, you can have sub sections or sub teams that can actually govern themselves the way they want. Because the way that you govern a technical team is not necessarily going the way that you govern a team that is responsible for maybe like marketing or education. When there is a different mission and different outcomes, the governance is not the same. So that's one thing that came to my mind when you said that, Terry. Having defined teams, squad that can operate differently within the same organization. That's important.
Hey guys, can you hear me? So yeah, I heard everybody talking. I want to say that I feel that when we're talking about DAOs, I feel it's very abstract. And I feel like we're all putting some very abstract ideas about DAOs. And I think maybe another approach to do this is to figure out, okay, well, if we have an application, you know, that's already launched on internet computer, you know, what they have done with their DAOs, in what areas can they do better? And I just feel like it's probably more concrete if we get to, you know, think along the lines of like, well, you know, here, this is one example of what we have, or one example of what DAOs are like, you know, in another ecosystem. It doesn't have to be, you know, on ICP already. But I feel like it will be more productive if we, you know, think along those lines rather than like, you know, theoretically, you know, what does a DAO look like? You know, how should it function? Because I feel like that would just be more productive. And also just now earlier, I heard, you know, folks talked about like, you know, raising funds and stuff like that. And I think that's probably also within the current SNS infrastructure. And see, from my standpoint, I'm just thinking like, if I build an application, right, or a platform on ICP, I will have users. Let's start with users, right? And what are the user profiles? You know, they could be influencers. They could be somebody who's, you know, like for I have one project which is about, you know, like writing books, and, you know, there are authors who's writing books, and there are people who are, you know, buying books and stuff like that. So then what I feel like once you define the user profiles for all of your, you know, application participants, then it will be more, you know, easy to see, okay, well, does it make sense to make it into a DAO? And who should we give more influence to, and how should they gain, you know, that kind of influence, rather than just a simple, oh, well, you know, you put in more ICP and therefore you have more votes. So yeah, that's, you know, just some comments that I have off the top of my head.
That's great. It made me think that it could be a case study, like studying a specific application and, yeah, answering those questions that we are trying to answer for one specific case.
I think the other side is that there might be, I mean, me personally, I'm building one right now. So when I'm throwing things out and hearing all of these things, it's also helping me to formulate some of my, it's reinforcing some of my thinking and giving me other things to think about. And I said it earlier as well, I don't necessarily want us to fall into a trap of doing what everyone else is doing because they're doing it. So I think that's also why this is comforting to know that it isn't just about go to SNS but you know, we're covering the last speaker's name, but the point of identifying your different user types and what their roles are going to be in it, and how much control they should have of the DAO, or how much influence they should have with the DAO, is really important. So For instance, some people are building things that the actual core user base haven't arrived yet because they're still on Web 2. You know, how do we think about those guys and ensure that when they do arrive, their portion of influence is waiting for them, versus because everyone was here early, we now get to decide what happens for your livelihood. I think that's not fair. I agree 100%. Would it mean like maybe on the Monday session we pick 2 or 3 really good case studies of DAOs that are being operated well, or with one? Is it just one or is it 2?
I'm wondering, Terry, would you like to be one of this case with the AgriDAO?
Yeah, sure, man.
Cool. I think that would be something to have on the agenda. That would be cool. Yeah.
I think that's a good approach. That was what I meant by putting on, like, you know, DAO best practices. What makes a great DAO, or great DAO reviews? Let's review some. So some sort of a 101, just to kind of get the basics done, would be great. But I think reviewing some, and, you know, a case study. This was a great one. This was a terrible one. Here's one that, you know, faced its challenges. That would be really. I think that would be really helpful and insightful.
I think if you were to do that, doing it from a perspective like SWOT analysis, like strength, weaknesses, areas for improvement, threats, could be beneficial.
Yeah.
Oh, so I was just saying from a SWOT analysis, not necessarily to do with Watermelon, no.
Mike, I was thinking the same thing, but yeah, you voiced it, so yeah, man.
Oh, and by the way, Seb, I think when you mentioned about an organization that runs itself, the one that I'm aware of is called Holacracy. I put the word in the chat. It's a way to run a company in a self-governing organic way, and I think Holacracy would be a perfect way to go to do a DAO structure. But that's for later.
Yeah, I talked to Seb about it many times, and I follow actually a class before the Open Internet Summer about this, because I have exactly the same feeling as you.
I've used it, and it's like really cool. It's a really cool way to run a company.
But it's maybe I think like what is also very good is that it's very protocolized, and very protocolized means it's easy to put it into code.
Exactly. Well, it was written by a programmer, right? It was designed by right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I also like that the first result is self-management OS. So I think that's
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. I mean, he wrote basically a self-management OS for a company. It was crazy.
Yeah. Great inspiration there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. We are still in your room, so you are the boss here.
1 hour, yes.
Thanks a lot, Ricardo. Thanks a lot, everyone.
Cheers,
Thank
thanks,
you.
guys.
Thank you, guys.
See you in an hour.